Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another Bible study about the Sabbath. We've seen that the Sabbath is a part of God's eternal word. But what did Jesus do? Did he keep the Sabbath or did he change it? And what did the disciples do after his death? Did they keep the Sabbath, the seventh-day Sabbath, or did they change it to Sunday? Let's see. So let's start by reading some Bible verses where Jesus is recorded keeping the Sabbath. Luke 4, verse 16 says, And he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up. And as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up to read. So here in Luke 4, verse 16, we see that it was Jesus' custom to go to the synagogue on the Sabbath day. So yes, he did keep the Sabbath day. And then we have Matthew 12, verse 1 and verse 9. Matthew 12, verse 1 is just contextualizing what day that he went into the synagogue. And it says, At that time Jesus went on the Sabbath day through the corn, and his disciples were an hungered, and began to pluck the ears of corn and to eat. And then verse 9 says what happened after during that same day. And when he was departed thence, he went into their synagogue. Again, we see Jesus Christ going into the synagogue on the Sabbath day after he went through the corn with his disciples. So we see here that Jesus kept the Sabbath and it was his custom. Luke 6, verse 6 tells us, And it came to pass also on another Sabbath day that he entered into the synagogue and taught. And there was a man whose right hand was withered. Again, we see that not only did he keep the Sabbath by going to the synagogue to attend the services, but he also taught in the synagogue on the Sabbath day. So Jesus kept the Sabbath day. And then Mark 2, verse 27 and 28, Jesus is speaking, and it says, And he said unto them, The Sabbath was made for man, and not man for the Sabbath. Therefore the Son of Man is also Lord of the Sabbath. So we've seen this verse before. Jesus Christ is not only affirming the Sabbath day, but he's claiming lordship over it. He says, This is my day. you know? So he kept the Sabbath. And then we have more verses that help us understand this better. Because Jesus said in Matthew 5:17, Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. Again, we see here that he kept the Sabbath because he kept the whole law. He said, I'm not come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. He came to fulfill the law, which is the Ten Commandments. And also, in another sense, he came to fulfill what the sanctuary services pointed to, but that's another video for another time. So we've seen that the Sabbath day is a part of God's eternal law. It does not change. And Jesus is here saying again, Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I'm not come to destroy, but to fulfill. And the Sabbath day is a part of that law. So Jesus did not break the Sabbath. He kept the Sabbath and he affirmed it. Sometimes I hear people saying, "Oh, but Jesus did break the Sabbath because the Pharisees told him that he wasn't supposed to heal people on the Sabbath. He wasn't supposed to pluck ears of corn on the Sabbath." But no, he did not break the Sabbath. What he was doing was showing them that the Pharisees had actually put so many burdens on the Sabbath day, and that was not the point when God created the Sabbath day. That's what Jesus came to do, was to show them the real meaning and the real way that you are supposed to keep the Sabbath holy. But he did not break it. Now we go into another section, and we're going to see if the disciples keep the Sabbath after Jesus ascended to heaven. Because some people say that the disciples didn't actually honor the Sabbath day. They were just keeping it because it was a custom back then, and that they actually kept the Sunday holy, which is nowhere in the Bible. It's not biblical at all. There's no transference from the Sabbath, seventh-day Sabbath, from Saturday to Sunday. There is none of that in the Bible. So let's see what it actually says in the Bible about the apostles. So let's read Acts 13:14. It's talking about Paul and the people that were with him during his journeyings. And it says, "But when they departed from Perga, they came to Antioch and Pisidia, and went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and sat down." Again, we saw, this is an example, we see that Paul, after Jesus died, he was keeping the Sabbath day. Again, Acts 15, verse 21. "For Moses of old time hath in every city them preach him, being read in the synagogues every Sabbath day." Again, we see that not only the apostles and the disciples kept the Sabbath, but also people in every city in that time, Christians. After Jesus died and ascended to heaven, it's very clear from this verse that they were keeping the Sabbath day. They went to the synagogues, and the Old Testament was being preached in the synagogues every Sabbath day. That is what it says. Incredible. And then in Acts 16:13 it says, "And on the Sabbath day we went out of the city by a river side, where prayer was wont to be made. And we sat down, and spake unto the women which resorted thither." So here we don't see them going to the synagogue, but we do see a mention of the Sabbath day. And they decided to go by a river in the open air to pray with the women that were there. This is keeping the Sabbath. They were praying, and then they were speaking to them. This is Sabbath keeping. And then we see Acts 17, verse 2. "And Paul, as his manner was, went in unto them, and 3 Sabbath days reasoned with them out of the Scriptures." Again, we see here Paul participating in expounding the Scriptures on a Sabbath day, as his custom was, as his manner was. And then Acts 18, verse 4 tells us, "And he reasoned in the synagogue every Sabbath, and persuaded the Jews and the Greeks." Now this verse makes it even better, because not only Paul kept the Sabbath and reasoned in the synagogue every Sabbath, but who did he reason to? He reasoned and persuaded with the Jews and the Greeks, which means they were also keeping the Sabbath. They were also attending the synagogue on the Sabbath. So it's very clear there was no transference from Saturday Sabbath to Sunday. That is not a thing in the Bible. So I hope that this study made it clear, and this brings us to the end of our Bible study series about the Sabbath. I hope that this was of value to everybody. It sure was to me. I learned a lot of new things, and yeah, I pray that everybody was edified by this study, because I really just want to show everybody the truth. Sabbath is still valid today, and God still wants us to keep it to this day, because his law is not ever going to be changed. Not one jot nor one tittle till everything is fulfilled. That's what Jesus said. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.